Alright, hello everyone. It's Nigel here once again, and this is going to be the crime analysis video for Marvin Gaye. So, just a couple things before we begin. For starters, my apologies for not just not being able to record this and get it up yesterday, but also for the late upload tonight and everything. So it's gonna be going up pretty late, so I do apologize, but wanted to make sure I got as much research in as possible, and wanted to make sure I did this topic justice and everything, as I do for all my crime analysis videos. But thankfully, you guys are still going to get your one for May, so this is technically going to be the one for April, so it's not going to be replacing the one for May. You are still going to get your one for May later on in the month. But with May's, I'm not sure who I want to do yet, so if you guys have suggestions, please let me know. Of course, I did try to have you guys vote last time, but I didn't get a whole lot of feedback, unfortunately. But if there is a particular person you want me to look at for the month of May, please let me know. The other thing is, of course, if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel here and follow me on my other social medias. We have a Facebook page, which is The Nigelverse, a Twitter page, which is The Nigelverse, and of course an Instagram page, which is also The Nigelverse. So go follow those. I post different updates about videos like these, or the movie video game reviews, or System Shock Radio, Tales from the Labyrinth, things like that. And, of course, we do have episodes of both System Shock Radio and Tales from the Labyrinth coming out this week. But the other thing, and, of course, the big thing about this is, please be advised, you may hear some things talked about here that are going to be uncomfortable, that may be uncomfortable for you to hear. So please be warned and be conscious of that. So without further ado, let's get into this. So first things first, we have to talk about who is Marvin Gaye. So he was born Marvin Pence Gaye Jr. on April 2nd, 1939 in Washington, D.C. He started singing in church at 4 years old and developed a strong love for singing by the time he got to high school. But he ended up dropping out of high school at age 17 and enlisting in the military. However, he was discharged after faking mental illness to try and get out of the military when he didn't like doing the menial tasks, and he didn't like the way he was talked to, and we'll sort of dive into why in just a few moments. But when he started out his singing career and went back to Washington, D.C., he started out as part of a quartet group known as the Marquis. But they ended up disbanding in 1960 after not really having too many hits. Gaye then relocated to Detroit, where he played drums for several Tri-Fi releases. So that was the company he was with at the time. He caught the attention of Berry Gordy, who was the president of Motown. And this came about when Gaye performed at his house during the holiday season of December of 1960. So Gaye ended up being signed with Tamla, which was a Motown subsidiary. And during this time, Gaye added an E at the end of his name, both to silence questions about his sexuality and to put more distance between himself and his father, as told by author David Ritz. So we'll find out more about why he made these changes as we go on. He spent most of 1961 as a drummer for session work for artists and groups such as The Miracles, The Marvelettes, and Jimmy Reed. He's known for songs such as You're All I Need to Get By, Ain't No Mountain High Enough, both duets with Tammy Terrell. What's Going On, Pride and Joy, I Heard It Through the Grapevine, and Let's Get It On. He left Motown in 1982 due to several frustrations with them, although these stem back for for previous years, such as how his recordings were handled and things like that. And he signed with CBS Records, subsequently releasing the Midnight Love album after his departure from Motown. And this was after his short exile, where he stayed in Belgium to recover from his addictions and everything. And so this was after that. He was still with Motown, but when he returned to the United States, he left them in 1982. Gaye had a 4-octave vocal range and recorded in the baritone and tenor vocal ranges. He was known for being very versatile in his range, where he was considered extremely versatile in terms of his range and everything, and how he's able to sing and all that, which, when it comes to singing, versatility is a very good thing, although I can't comment too much because I'm not really a singer, but he defied tradition by delving into a political album with his song "What's Going On" and the whole album, I should say. And that's because all Motown singers at the time were advised against doing this out of fear of alienating pop audiences. So they were told, don't do like political songs, things like that. So that they didn't lose their audience, even though, if you think about it, a lot of audience do care about political stuff. I mean, look at stuff nowadays where political affiliations do draw people to and away from certain people, which I guess drawing people away is a valid point on Motown's part, but people, I feel like some people don't mind hearing about politics, but that is neither here nor there. So now we move to Marvin Gaye Sr. So Marvin Gaye Sr. was born Marvin Pence Gaye Sr. on October 1st of 1914 in Jessamine County, Kentucky. Gaye was then raised in Lexington, Kentucky. So as a child, Gaye, his mother, and his siblings experienced physical abuse, and Gaye experienced a rough childhood, which included drugs and shootings and stuff like that. And so Gaye and his mother joined the House of God, which is a Pentecostal church, and Gaye moved to Washington, D.C. as a teenager to pursue ministry for a House of God church out there in Washington, D.C. So while he was in Washington, D.C., he met his future wife, Alberta, and they were married on July 2nd of 1935. So Gaye then became a bishop after he impressed the congregation at his church when he did ministry work in Norristown, Pennsylvania. Within the church, he was known as a healer, according to his son, Marvin Gaye Jr. And by the late 1940s, Gaye ended up leaving House of God to join another sect called House of the Living God. So he then returned to House of God in the 1950s, I should say, to board its head of apostles, but he left again, this time for good, in the mid-1950s, after not being named chief apostle. And according to his son, Marvin Jr., that's when my father lost his healing powers. That's a quote from him. So now we're going to explore one of the main dynamics of this case, and that is the relationship between Marvin Sr. and Marvin Jr. So, to put it simply, it was a very strange relationship between the two. So, Marvin Sr. was known for being extremely strict. He made his family observe an extended Sabbath, which was every Saturday, and he was against the Christian tradition of going to church on Sunday, as he accused Christians of disobeying God's commandment to keep the Sabbath. So, that is one of the 10 Commandments, and according to the Bible, is honor the Sabbath day and keep it holy. And it goes back to the biblical story of the creation of the earth, because God rested on the seventh day, of course. Marvin Gaye Sr., would question his children about biblical passages, beating them if they got questions wrong. And all 4 of Gaye's children had problems with bedwetting as well, which would result in more beatings. So, It's noted that Marvin Jr., or aka Marvin Gaye with the E and everything, received the harshest punishments from Marvin Sr. for any shortcomings, including leaving his hairbrush in the wrong spot, in like slightly the wrong spot, apparently, or even coming home from school a minute late. And Alberta, which was Marvin Sr.'s wife and Marvin Jr.'s mother, said that Marvin Sr. hated Marvin Jr. And this is a quote from Marvin Gaye Jr. And it says, "Living with father was like living with a king, an all-cruel, changeable, cruel, and all-powerful king." And another quote from him says, "If it wasn't for mother, who was always there to console me and praise me for my singing, I think I would have been one of those child suicides you read about in the papers." And now a quote from Alberta Gaye, of course, Marvin's mother and Marvin Sr.'s wife. "My husband never wanted Marvin, and he never liked him. He used to say he didn't think he was really his child. I told him that was nonsense. He knew Marvin was his, but for some reason he didn't love Marvin, and what's worse, he didn't want me to love Marvin either. Marvin wasn't very old before he understood that." And so that's from Alberta Gaye. However, there is a quote from Marvin Sr. that disputes this, where he says, "It was important that I have a male child. A namesake is what I wanted. The day he was born, I felt he was destined for greatness. I thanked God for the blessing of his life. I thanked God for Marvin. I knew he was a special child." So here we see a bit of a differentiation, where we see Marvin Jr. and Alberta is saying that Marvin Sr. hated his son. He didn't like his son at all. He wanted nothing to do with his son. But Marvin Sr. trying to dispute that and saying, "No, I do love my son, and I'm happy for my son and everything." So it's a bit of an interesting differentiation. So it says Gaye was... what I put down, I should say, based on my research, is Gaye was involved with cross-dressing. This was Marvin Gaye Sr., and which is something that humiliated Marvin Jr. Marvin Gaye Sr. also became an alcoholic, which further strained the relationship between him and Marvin Jr., and it would also strain Marvin Gaye Sr.'s relationship with Alberta Gaye, his wife. And it got to the point where they no longer slept in the same bed or even in the same room. But Marvin Gaye Jr. did try to take steps to try to repair the relationship with his dad. He brought the houses. This is after he found success in his music. He brought them a house. And he eventually bought his dad a new Cadillac, and he would end up relocating them years later to a different house in California. But unfortunately, it wasn't enough to repair the relationship between Marvin Gaye Jr. and his father. So, Marvin, to the point where Marvin Gaye Jr., aka Marvin Gaye with an E, he just put the junior and senior just to differentiate them for myself, and when I tell this verbally to you guys, of course. But Marvin Gaye Jr. didn't rarely ever visited his parents because of the strained relationship with his dad, and they couldn't even be in the same room barely without any conflict. So a very strained, very tumultuous relationship. So now we move on to the killing, the murder of Marvin Gaye Jr. and sentencing. So in the days leading to Marvin Jr.'s death, Marvin Sr. and Alberta repeatedly argued over a missing insurance policy letter for their house and everything. Marvin Gaye Sr. took out insurance policy on their previous house that Marvin Gaye Jr. had bought for them, but there was a missing insurance policy letter, and it led to them fighting. And the day before Marvin's death, which would be a 30th, if I'm not mistaken, if I have it takes place in April, so March 31st, 1st, if I'm not mistaken, if I do have the timeline correctly. Yeah, so the day before, there was a fight between Marvin Sr. and Alberta, which led to Marvin and trying to back his father away from his mother, and the fight actually went over to Marvin Jr.'s bedroom, so it was in his vicinity, and he tried to back his father away from his mother, and he told Marvin Sr. to leave his mother alone, and Marvin Sr. complied for the day. But then the next day at 12:30, there was another argument from Marvin Sr., and Marvin tried again to verbally tell his father, or once again, to leave his mother alone. But this time, Marvin Sr. wasn't having it. He kept arguing with her, so Marvin Jr. this time got hot physical. He physically attacked Marvin Sr., and Alberta had to separate them and return Marvin Jr. to his bedroom. So then, at 12:38, 8 minutes later, Marvin Sr. entered his son's bedroom with the 38mm pistol that Marvin Jr. had brought him. So Marvin Gaye Jr. bought his father a pistol for Christmas. He bought him this pistol for Christmas to protect against intruders and invaders. At this point, Marvin Jr. had been heavily using cocaine and had become extremely paranoid. And during the tour, the Midnight Love, I believe, the Midnight Love album tour, apparently Marvin Gaye Jr. had become very paranoid, and so he gave his father this gun, and Marvin Sr. would end up walking into Marvin Jr.'s room after their argument and everything, and ended up shooting him. He shot the gun at Marvin Jr. twice, once in the chest and once in the shoulder. And forensic pathologist Michael Hunter said that he believed that the first shot was non-fatal, as it went into Marvin Jr.'s left shoulder, or went through his clavicle and exited out of the back. But the second shot was fatal, traveling down the lung, heart, diaphragm, liver, and kidney before embedding itself in the left side of the torso. So a very interesting trajectory for this bullet and everything. And we have a quote from Alberta here, where it says, "I was standing about 8 feet away from Marvin when my husband came to the door of the bedroom with his pistol. My husband didn't say anything. He just pointed the gun at Marvin. I screamed, but it was very quick. He, my husband, shot, and Marvin screamed. I tried to run. Marvin slid down to the floor after the first shot." So Alberta did indeed run out of the room out of fear of being shot as well, like her son just was, and she ran into Irene's, which is their daughter, ran into her arms, and Alberta was shouting, "He shot Marvin. He's killed my boy." So when the police arrived, Irene found the gun under Marvin Sr.'s pillow. She went into Marvin Sr.'s bedroom, asked him where the gun was, and then she found it under his pillow and dropped it on the front lawn. Marvin Sr., who walked out of the who had walked out onto the porch, was arrested, and police arrived 20 minutes after the shooting, and Marvin Jr. was taken to the California Hospital Medical Center, where he was pronounced dead on arrival at 1:01 p.m., which was one day before his 45th birthday on April 1st. So, it was a belief in the Gaye family household that if the children ever attacked Marvin Sr., he would murder them, and so we'll see that dynamic sort of play out later on in this. So when the autopsy was performed on Marvin Jr., he had traces of cocaine and PCP, also known as angel dust, in his system, which in court was believed to incite violence. So Gaye argued that he shot Marvin Jr. in self-defense because Marvin Jr. obviously attacked him and everything. And Gaye's siblings believe that their brother's death was a premeditated suicide, going back to the point I made earlier. And this is a quote from I believe Irene, where she said, no, hang on, I apologize. I will read the quote, and I forgot to put down who made the quote. I do apologize, but looking for the quote here. But I'll read the quote for you guys anyway. It said, Marvin had and I had to sort of put this in as an insertion here. Marvin had accomplished 3 things. He put himself out of his misery, he brought relief to Mother by finally getting her husband out of her life, and he punished Father by making certain that the rest of his life would be miserable. My brother knew just what he was doing. And of course, like I said, going back to the whole belief that if they attacked Marvin Sr., they would be murdered. Obviously, his siblings believe that this action was pretty much Marvin's way of getting back at his father, and it was on purpose so that he would die, so that he knew what to do in order for his father to kill him. But moving on, Marvin Sr. was held at the Los Angeles County Jail on a $100,000 bail. He said that he didn't mean to do it, and it's actually his sister Jean that made that quote. I do apologize, but he said he didn't mean to do it. He was held, like I said, in Los Angeles County Jail on a $100,000 bail, and a benign tumor ended up being discovered at the base of Marvin Sr.'s brain, and it ended up being removed on May 17, 1984. Now, apparently, certain tumors have been believed to alter behavior in a person, and this it may have been the case here, and that was the point they were trying to argue in the case, that he wasn't in control of his actions and everything. But on June 12th, after reviewing a 2-page report, which included 2 psychiatric evaluations, Marvin Sr. was deemed fit to stand trial, and Marvin Sr. appeared in court again on June 20th, where he was ordered to return on July 16th for a preliminary hearing. So Alberta posted a reduced bail of $30,000 to bail out Marvin Sr., and she had filing for divorce 2 days earlier, citing legal separation from Marvin Sr. the same day that Marvin Jr. was killed. So, as a result of the documents, the drugs in Gaye's system, and pictures of Marvin Sr.'s injuries, as a result of the the confrontation between him and his son, Marvin Jr., Judge Ronald M. George granted Marvin Sr. a plea bargain, and on September 20th, Marvin Sr. pled no contest to charge of manslaughter. And on November 2nd, Judge Gordon Ranger sentenced Marvin Sr. to a 6-year suspended sentence and 5 years of probation. He was also prohibited from owning any firearms or alcohol for the rest of his life. And we have a quote from Marvin Sr. here, and it says, "If I could bring him back, I would. I was afraid of him. I thought I was going to get hurt. I didn't know what was going to happen. I'm really sorry for everything that happened. I loved him. I wish he could step through this door right now. I'm paying the price now." And Marvin Gaye Sr. would end up passing away on October 10th, 1998 from pneumonia. So, very interesting and heartbreaking case. The fact that we have a very strained relationship between these two, between father and son, which led to the son's death, and with everything surrounding it, stuff like this seemed almost inevitable. It could be seen perhaps as inevitable that one would end up hurting the other to the point of death. But still very heartbreaking thing to hear and to read about. Oh, and it is very interesting, and I do feel like this is something that some could argue for both sides in a way. Hey, was Marvin Gaye Sr. right or wrong for killing his son because his son physically attacked him and everything? But what's also heartbreaking to see is that Marvin Gaye Sr., as a child himself, was abused, and the fact that now here he is ending up abusing his children as well, is both very interesting but also very heartbreaking to take into consideration. But without further ado, that is going to do it for this analysis. Thank you all so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts on the analysis and everything in the comments below. Of course, System Shock Radio and Tales from the Labyrinth are coming this week as well, and I'll see if I can be able to drop a review in. This week I'm actually thinking about doing a bit of a review trilogy, and we'll go into more detail about it later on. But thank you all so much for watching, and of course this week's episodes of System Shock Radio and Tales from the Labyrinth are going to be live, so we'll be live Saturday night at 11:30 p.m. For Tales from the Labyrinth, and then on Sunday at 1:30 p.m. for System Shock Radio. So those will be live on Instagram for Tales from the Labyrinth, and then Facebook for System Shock Radio. So come check those out. Come join me, hang out for a little bit, and thanks for watching this video, and I will see you guys later. Peace.